You aren't hitting your numbers because you're afraid to sell. Now, this is where all that stops. And this is where you're going to get really honest. And you're finally going to go all in. Like, I'm talking about walking into the casino of life and putting all the chips on you. See, you're not doing everything you can. Lots of salespeople think, they'll say, I'm doing everything I can. The truth is, you're doing everything that you're comfortable of doing. Most salespeople will confuse effort with effectiveness. You're busy, but you're not being bold. You're not really being efficient with your time and your priorities. Now, I understand, you can look at your, the hygiene on your CRM. You're checking all the boxes. You're following the scripts, right? You're keeping your activity logs. But deep down, you know the real work that you're avoiding to do. See, so many salespeople, like you could be saying, I'm doing all I can. They'll say, Paul, I'm doing all that I can. And I say, well, hold on. Let's look at your calendar. Let's look at your call log. Let's look at your follow-up cadence. And then when we look at that, there's a lot left on the table. See, you're doing what you're willing to do, not what's required to get the results you say. See, most people say, Paul, I'll do anything. Usually by the time they get to me, they've gone through 2 or 3 other sales programs that didn't work. We're not the first salespeople. We are not the first sales program people buy. We're the last one they buy. We're the last one because we finally fixed the problem. What happens is for most people, they'll tell me, I'd be willing to do anything. Like I gotta save this job. I've got to hit this number. But when they say they'll do anything, it's anything but what's really required. They're not really willing to do the hard work. See, sales is built on discomfort. That's why it's the highest paid profession in the world. There is no higher paid profession in the world that I know of other than commission sales. There's no limit to what you can make. Every new level of production is going to require you to come and develop a new level of courage, a new level of awareness. On top of the skill, on top of all the skills you need to get to that next level, there's also the inner game. The self-belief, the self-concept, the self-esteem, the self-worth. If you're trying to avoid feeling awkward, if you're trying to avoid, being told no, you're not selling. You're not selling. You're avoiding, and you're kind of circling around the conversation. You're playing the game to be liked. See, most people who do this, they're operating this thinking that, rapport is people know, like, and trust you. That's not rapport. That's a beauty contest. Know, like, and trust you. Rapport is when people see you as an authority. Yeah, they may respect you, but they respect you because you're an expert. They respect you because they see that, boom, you are sharp as a tack. There's something different about you. You carry yourself different. You project something different. See, the most expensive phrase in business is I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll get to, see, the minute your willingness hits resistance, momentum dies. Momentum is a leader's best friend. And the truth is it your goal, it doesn't care about your excuses. When you start evaluating your daily agenda by how many uncomfortable actions you took, not by how many safe tasks you completed, you'll see a big measurable shift in your sales results. About 10, 11 years ago, I partnered with John Maxwell. And we had the entire deal inked up. We were ready to go. We were probably 3 weeks away from launch. And I got a message that John wanted to meet me at his country club at 6:00. I thought I was going for dinner. I met John. And John said, hey, look, I got to talk to you. There's a problem with the deal. I go, what's the problem? He said, as we look at the numbers, no matter what happens, whether this deal is going to be successful or not, if we sell one person, I have to show up and deliver for that one person. The same I do is if you sold 500 people. I'm on the line. I'm on the hook. And so I need you to guarantee me $1 million. I need you to guarantee me. And I don't mean that I'm going to get the first million from the business. I need you need to guarantee me it personally. You need to personally go on the hook for $1 million. And I looked at John and I said, is there anything else? Like, is that it? Is that what you need? Is there anything else? Because I don't want to go back to the lawyer and I don't want to play that game. And he said, yeah, I mean, and I handed John a $1 million check 21 days after we launched. Not because I was, more skilled than anybody else in the business, but because I was playing to win. I didn't hedge. I didn't wait until I felt ready. I didn't say, well, let me think about it. That's what was required. And my willingness met the moment. That's emotional commitment. You see, that level of result doesn't come from me having the habit of doing things that are easy or convenient. I'm not afraid of hard. I'm not afraid of uncomfortable. I'm not afraid of sacrifice. Doesn't scare me a bit. It actually excites me because I know the reward's going to be greater. See, it comes from me developing this skill, talent, ability, resources, and belief system that I am willing to burn the boats on the shoreline. So there's no way home. There's no way back. I'm committed. See, for making the sale more important than the safety net. I don't want a paycheck. I don't want a guarantee. What I want is commission. Give me a commission. That's what I want. And give me a scaling up commission that the more I produce, the more I make. That's what I want. I'm a points player. I play for points. One of the reasons why, when I started in this business, I got so successful being hired as a platform speaker. When I started speaking, I spoke on the same stage, shared the stage at the same event as Zig Ziglar, the great Zig Ziglar, the great Wayne Dyer, with Les Brown, with Bob Proctor, with John Maxwell, with Jack Canfield, with Brian Tracy. These guys are the senior statesmen in an industry. I was coming in, having just sold a commercial cleaning company, never been in that business, and somehow I'm on stages with them. And then when booking agents saw me on those stages and saw that I could carry myself, they began to ask me, would I fly here? Would I fly there? But they weren't willing to pay me, the same fees that they were paying John and Les and the others. And I said, look, how about we do this? Don't pay me anything. Cover my first class airfare, cover all my ground transportation, the limo at my house, limo when I get there, so I don't have to drive. Put me up in a Marriott level, or above. Let me speak for 60 to 90 minutes. And all I ask is that I'm allowed to sell from the stage. Just let me sell my product from the stage, because I knew if I got on that stage, I could sell and make more money from what I sold than they would ever pay me or were paying any of the other speakers. I was often the lowest paid speaker on the stage and made more money at the end of the day than anybody else because I outsold them. See, I wasn't looking for a safety net. The safety net wasn't important for me. What was important for me was the opportunity. See, you're not losing sales because of price or market or timing. You're losing because of your own unwillingness to do the hard things. See, most missed sales aren't lost in the close. That's not where you lose them. They're lost in the follow-up that never happened. They're lost in the ask that you avoided. They're lost the moment you broke momentum, where you hesitated to step forward as the originator of the conversation, as the authority in that dynamic relationship and lead with real certainty. You've made quiet little agreements with these limited beliefs. You make agreements with limitations. But geez, nobody's going to buy that much, or it never, nobody in the company's ever sold, 1 million in a month. And you'll tell yourself things like, people don't, people don't answer their call before, 9 o'clock in the morning. I would often go and cold call at 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning. Why? Because 5 in the morning, that's when the doctor's in the office. That's when the head counsel is in the office. Those men and women are early risers. They're first at the office and there's nobody there. And that's like, they're able to get an hour or two. And I would frequently get there. And they were impressed that I was there. They were impressed that I had even thought of the idea. People don't answer at this time of the day, or they're probably just shopping around, or they're not serious buyers. Oh no, they're serious buyers. They're going to buy. They're just not going to buy from you. See, that kind of thinking is not strategic. That thinking is fear-based. When you think you're being strategic by, thinking that I'm going to start at this time or that time because those are the good days of the people ask me like, what time should I cold call? Like when you wake up, that's when you should cold call. Go. Where should I start? Like right out, like probably nobody's buying in your house, right? Yeah. So then go. Just go. It doesn't matter. Go where the people are. Go where there's a door. That's where you start cold calling. See, everything short of you being like taking immediate action is fear pretending to be logic. Your sales will never exceed your willingness to lead a conversation. And you can't lead what you're afraid to own. If you won't initiate the uncomfortable conversations, you're not selling. You're merely hoping for an outcome that's going to happen. You're playing this on hope. See, when you let your unwillingness lead, when you let you've got these lines in the sand, you've got these sacred things that you can't violate. I don't work on Saturdays. I don't work on Sundays. It's a Sunday and I'm filming this. Okay. What do you mean you don't work on Saturdays or Sunday? You won't do a call on a Sunday? Are you nuts? Well, it's my religion. Your religion's going to be okay. Your spiritual connection's going to be okay. If you need to make a call to feed your family, to increase your life, to give more freedom to your spirit, your religion's going to be okay. When you allow your unwillingness to win, it's going to take you to a place where you're not going to make decisions that are in harmony with what you want. See, you're going to be saying no for your buyer. I used to do that all the time. Like you see it all the time. You see a waitress walks up to the table and says, you didn't save room for dessert, did you? See, you're editing your own success. You price drop even before they've pushed back. You're filtering the sale through your own insecurity. I used to think, if we raise the price, they won't buy. If, we were selling something for $4,000, we're going to raise the price to $5,500. Oh my goodness. Half my sales team went on revolt. Well, we'll never be able to do that. We'll never be, they'll never pay that. That's a 1,500, whatever percentage. The increase is in your head. The person you're talking to doesn't know we went from 4,000 to 5,500. And who cares if they do? You tell them, hey, yeah, well, the value proposition changed. We've realized now we were underselling it because we've started to get the results of people and we've seen the value that we're delivering. Our price isn't economics. Our price is value based. See, but they couldn't even think of that language pattern because they were so locked in their unwillingness. They were so locked in their sacred cows. Until you stop negotiating against yourself and you start showing up with certainty, you will always fall short of your potential. And you'll justify it by saying, well, I gave it my best shot. And then you'll surround yourself with people who say, well, hey, what can you do? All you can do is all you can do. Well, you gave it your best shot. See, I once trained a sales team to go back and call every old lead from the past 2 years using a very simple follow-up script. We didn't change the product. We didn't discount the price. What we did was we changed the sales team's psyche. We went in and we led with certainty and clarity about the offer. And many of those old contacts, right? The old dead leads that nobody wanted turned into clients because we had changed. The offer hadn't changed, but our awareness of the value proposition changed, and we spoke from a different place of truth. We presenced ourselves differently. We outperformed our own hesitation. Look, let me pause just for a second. And I want you to pause the video, and I want you to grab the Money Mindset Reset Guide. The Money Mindset Reset. It's right there. Just click on the link down in the description. See, if you know that you've been underperforming, not because of a lack of effort, but because of the way you think about effort, the way you think about your schedule, the way you think about what you're doing, the way you think about money, this guide is going to help you make that next move. It's a really working document that exposes the 5 common money paradigms that silently have us settle for less, that has us draw these invisible boundaries that we're unwilling to cross. Things like guilt around pricing, fear rejection, right? Avoiding a follow-up or believing that you have to hustle your way for every single dollar. You're going to walk through these reflective exercises. You'll track your patterns. And what you'll see is a pattern emerging that will actually help you measure your progress as you reset your relationship and your belief around money and what you're capable of and what you should be doing. See, if you've ever struggled to raise your rates, raise your commission, ask for the close, or feel congruent in your pitch, this is going to shift everything. You're going to find it right in the link. Download it now, and then come right back because we're about to go just a little bit deeper. Now, if you haven't done that, if you haven't stopped the video and downloaded, let me just ask you, why is that? You're saying you're saying, I'm doing everything I can do. Oh, I've got willingness. You know why? Because in your logical mind, you said, well, he's selling me. In your logical mind said, all he's trying to do is get my email. See, you're saying no, even before you gave it a shot. Now you're watching the video and you have this opportunity to download it and you don't do it. It's interesting because, we track our numbers. We'll see, a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people watch a video. Like 1 or 2% actually download the lesson. That's it. And you have to wonder why. And it's because what happens is we create this logical story that says, oh, all he's trying to do is sell me. All he's trying to do is get my email. This is the big pitch. This is where he's going to bait and switch. And it sounds so logical that we buy into it. That's the problem, is that your belief drives what you think is logical. That's a real subtle way of how sabotage works. And who cares if I am trying to sell you? Who cares if I'm trying to get your email? Who cares? I mean, maybe if you invested in something, like what's the value of one good idea applied to your business? If I were trying to sell you something and I sold you into a program and you got one idea that would increase your awareness so that you can become more aware of your potential and produce better results, you mean you have some boundary that you won't cross to get that? I'd crawl to get it. See, if you've got a goal to double your sales, to increase your close ratio, to hit a financial milestone, know this. You wouldn't have the desire to do that if you didn't already have access to all the resources to make it real. And now I'm offering you another resource. So make sure you download it. See, but most salespeople will stay stuck because they say, well, we don't have enough leads or I don't have the right product or, I'm not in the right network or, this is the wrong marketplace or this is the wrong time of the market. Those are all facts. Those are all facts, but they're not truth. Like facts change. I I was speaking at the, National Realtors Convention, 2008 in San Diego. 3,000 real estate agents. Most of them were on their way going out of business. This is during the financial crisis. But there were about 3% of the people there who were having the best years they've ever had. 97% of the people failing, saying the market's terrible. 3% of the people looking at this and saying this is the best time. If you study history, go back and look at 1937, 1938, 1939 in the United States, 1940, and what you'll see is the fastest growth and largest growth of millionaires that we've ever had in our nation's history. It was during the Depression. So while some people were throwing themselves off of buildings or standing in line for food that didn't exist, other people were winning. See, you don't need more leads. What you need is a more elegant way to follow through on the ones you have. You need to make a more courageous ask. You need to develop your skill in being able to communicate the value proposition. You need more willingness to be seen in the pitch. See, the source of the idea that you have to double your income, to grow your sales by 80%, the source of that idea has already resourced you. You wouldn't get the idea to do that if you couldn't do it. But you have to become the kind of person who can activate that. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have the money or the time or certainty, but it does mean that you have to step forward anyways. You may not have the time. You may not have the money. You may not have the self-belief to do it. That's okay. Emerson said, do the thing, and then you get the energy to do the thing. He wasn't talking about the physical energy. He was saying, do the thing, and then you get the energy, the time, the money, the resources. Most salespeople are crazy. It's like, as a metaphor, it's like they walk over to a fireplace and say, give me heat, and then I'll go chop wood. Like, give me all the leads and line up all the buyers, and then I'll do the work on follow through. It doesn't work that way. You've got to go first. It was Henry David Thoreau who made the famous quote. He says, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dream and endeavors to live the life that they've imagined, they will meet with success at uncommon hours. What does that mean? That means that if we advance forward in the direction of our dream and we visualize what we want, we endeavor to do what we have to do, we endeavor to become the person. He says that when we do that, that energetic shift causes the universe to respond, and the universe begins to move towards us as we move towards it in obedience, in obedience to the idea, in obedience to the things necessary for us to create what we want. As we move towards it, the universe responds. This is a call and respond universe. But you have to go first. You have to be the first one. You don't need permission. You just need to start. You don't need someone to guarantee it'll work. You need to risk the possibility that it won't and go do it anyways. See, when you're in a sales slump, it's really easy to point to your CRM or your manager, your list, the marketing. Let's be honest. You'll see what's really happening. You're protecting yourself from failure by playing small. Most people don't play to win. They play not to lose. You're not stuck in sales because of the market. When I first started my first business in 1988, I was so unaware, so ignorant. I didn't realize I was going into offices trying to sell them to have me come in and clean their office. Most of them were packing the boxes and getting out of their office. Most of them were losing their office. This is the Great Recession in 1988. It's like, it's what made Ronald Reagan came up with that famous quote. He said a recession is when your neighbor loses their job. A depression is when you lose yours. You're stuck because you stopped being willing to fail forward. You stopped willing to take the risks that create failures necessary for you to learn and grow. And what happens is we create this confused sense of safety as strategy. You're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. You're doing just enough to avoid the criticism, the rejection, and the discomfort, but not enough to create a true breakthrough, not enough to break through this invisible boundary. You don't need another sales script. You need a willingness check. You need to reattach yourself to the truth of your potential and then act from that truth, not from the facts of your life. See, early in my career, I wanted to be rich, but I believed that rich people were bad. That belief wasn't just a thought. It was a self-sabotage system. I'd make progress and then I'd crash and burn. I'd hit some new level and then I'd find a way to go backwards because my desire to win was battling a deeper unwillingness to let go of who I thought I had to be to stay, good, to stay the nice guy. See, nothing changes until your commitment surpasses your comfort zone, until your commitment passes your old programming. If you keep negotiating with your fear and your own self-judgment, making agreements with your perceived limitations, drawing these invisible boundaries, you will prove to yourself that you're right. The only problem is you'll still be broke. You'll still be in struggle. You don't need more confidence to succeed in sales. You need to stand on the confidence you have. You need to stand in your own truth of your potential. You need to walk into every conversation knowing that I'm not here to convince. I'm here to connect with my prospect with certainty and clarity. See, that level of truth, that level of belief has weight. It creates first emotional certainty in you, and then you transfer it. When your conviction matches your offer, the value proposition you bring, the need for what your prospect needs, the buyer feels it and it moves them. They want that certainty. So you've been telling yourself that, you need to get quote unquote better at sales. What does that mean? Better at sales. But what you really need, it's not about getting better at sales. It's to stop hiding, practicing, trying to get it right, trying to maybe do it. The truth is that everything you're trying to get right is already within you. You have all the resources. Let's just be honest. Are there things that you could do, you should do, and if you would do, you'd be getting better results? Are there some things right now you're not doing? You know how to do them. You know how to pick up the phone and call your last 10 deals and ask for referrals. You know that. And if you did it, you would increase your sales. If you called 10 of your last deals, you would get a referral. And that referral would give you a solid swing at a ball. An opportunity to get a base hit, maybe even a home run. And you're not doing it. And you're not doing it because you've got some kind of boundary, some kind of reason. I'm sure it's very logical, makes sense for you. And you might even have the support of your manager and your team members and other people think, oh yeah, no, you're doing great. But there's more for you and you're not doing it. That's not about developing your skill. You already know what to do. Even if you did know, you wouldn't do it. You already have all the resources to do what you need to do. See, most objections aren't objections at all. They're tests. Both for you and your own objections for yourself and the objections that your buyers give you. The question here is the objection is saying, do you actually believe what you're saying? And when you believe what you're saying, when you believe in who you are, When you see yourself as the problem solver, as you see yourself as the very best person to help this person get their problem solved or their wants and needs met, and you believe with absolute certainty. And if you win, even better. See, when you have that level of self-talk, that level of self-belief, price resistance fades. Hesitation goes away. But see, this level of truth only works if you're willing to carry it all the way through. Not like, well, I'm willing to do it here, but not here. So that means asking the really hard questions. Standing behind your price, following up when they go quiet. That's what it looks like to stand in what your truth is, of your full resourcefulness, to help your prospect get the result that they want. Look, let's stop pretending that you don't know what to do. You know exactly what your next step is. You've just been waiting for it to feel right, to feel easy. But sales doesn't reward comfort. It rewards courage. And if your goal is real, if you've been sourced with a dream, with an idea, with a new possibility, then stop circling around the pitch and get to the point. Stop waiting for permission. Do the thing that you've been avoiding, because willingness wins every single time. Before you click away, don't skip this part. Go and download the Money Mindset Reset Guide. If you want to close the gap between what you say you want and what you're actually producing, this guide is where that change begins. This is the work most salespeople avoid, but it's the work that changes everything. Once you've gotten the guide, make sure that you watch the next video. It's titled Making Follow-Up Calls to Customers. Making follow-up calls to customers. It's one of the fundamentals, because what good is mindset without movement? See, that video will show you how to apply what you've learned here and what you've been avoiding to do, the most profitable part of your sales. And I'm going to walk through this exactly what to say, how to say it, how to follow up with confidence and emotional certainty. So grab the guide and watch this next video. I'll see you there.